Hi friends. Today I want to talk about pricing and specifically how to increase and essentially double the value of your artwork. So I started out selling my paintings in high school for like $40 each. And now I just painted this last week and within a couple days it was sold for $1,200. It's 24 by 36 inches or 24 by 30 inches. And that is my standard price now for a painting that size. If you went back 1 year ago, 2 years ago, I was selling paintings this size for $300. So how did I manage to increase my prices, tripling, quadrupling my prices without pushback from my audience, right? People are paying for it. Now, normally price is determined by supply and demand, as we learn about in economics class, but art is a luxury. Art isn't deodorant. And so normally when you're pricing a product, if you were trying to start your own deodorant company, there would be a ceiling to what you can realistically price your product at because the consumer knows that what it's valued at isn't that high of an amount. Unless they created a deodorant that would solve my chronic sweating all the time. Then I might pay $200 for a stick. But art is a luxury, and studies have shown that when consumers don't know how to gauge the value of a product, as they don't with luxury items, they just use price as an indicator. So high price luxury item, they assume, well, it must be worth that, and vice versa. So things like artwork, there is no set universal pricing structure for art. We can see that some paintings sell for $100 million and some paintings sell on eBay for $2. What is the difference between the two? And how can you take your art from this one to this one? So there's two real things that I see being in your control as the artist where you can change the value, perceived value of your art. Because you might think your painting is worth $1 million, but you have to convince your audience that it is as well for someone to buy it. So scarcity is number one. Scarcity is something that also drives and influences number two, but let's focus on scarcity first. Artwork that is scarce is perceived as being more valuable, and something could be scarce in terms of this is a one-of-one original, or it could be scarce in terms of you are at the top 1% skill level for your art type. I know art is subjective, but for hyperrealism painters, Fabiano Milani is in like the top 1%. Scarcity could mean that you have created an art style that nobody has ever seen before. Because the more unique your artwork is, the less competition there is. Somebody falls in love with your painting, they can't just hop on Etsy and find the cheaper artists that's gonna paint them the same exact thing. Because when you're painting a little landscape and you're putting it up for sale on Etsy, for example, what sets you apart from the other 50,000 landscapes of the same kind of scenery by other artists on Etsy? When you are creating the same style of artwork that isn't you can't really differentiate it from another artist's work, well then you're just stuck in the same cycle as the deodorant bar where you have to kind of price accordingly with the other artists in your market. That's why finding your own super unique fingerprint and style as an artist increases the value. Scarcity is number one, but it's not the focus of this video. I actually want to focus more on number two, which is I think what has helped me increase my prices in the last year from the $300 to the $1,200 for my small paintings. Here it is. If you want to double the value of your painting, you have to double the value of the artist. So it really has absolutely nothing at all to do with the artwork and everything to do with the perceived value of you as the creator. We see this in the art world all the time because anyone off the street could recreate an exact perfect replica of the Mona Lisa. Any oil portrait artist could create a portrait of the exact same style and quality and skill level, and it would never, ever, ever sell for, I want to be accurate here, $860 million because it is not a Da Vinci original. The Mona Lisa is worth that much money because it's a Da Vinci original. It's the same reason why Banksy has created some very simplistic pop art, right? Not necessarily very scarce because it could be recreated very easily by another artist. It's valuable because it is Banksy. And so if you could make yourself be perceived as a more valuable artist, you can kind of skip over the scarcity rule. You can kind of skip a step forward and create artwork that is perceived as highly valuable regardless of the skill level, regardless of how scarce or unique it is or how meaningful it is. It's the same reason that we get super invested in celebrities on TV. It's the same reason why when Kim Kardashian's daughter, Northwest, when Kim shared her painting, which was good, it was very good, but if anyone else's child painted it, thousands of people would not have been begging to buy it. But because of the name, because it was painted by Kim Kardashian and Kanye West's daughter, it was intrinsically, immediately more valuable in the consumer's mind because of who painted it. So how do you make yourself more valuable as an artist? There's actually a book that I read that talks about some things, but I think it applies so perfectly. And it's a book called The Defining Decade by Meg Jay. It's written by a psychologist who talks about just the importance of the decade of your life between the age of 20 and 30. But she talks a lot about something in that book called identity capital. And it's kind of how you make yourself more marketable to employers, to just people, just in general in life, how to become more compelling and more perceived as more valuable. Let me just read you her definition. Identity capital is a term used by sociologists to describe a person's unique skill set, experiences, and resources that make them who they are. So what are the parts about you that make you you and uniquely you and not someone else? Why do you create art? And when people go to your website or your Instagram or your TikTok, wherever it is you're posting your art, what do they know about you? Are you just sharing pictures of your paintings? Because of course, your art page should be focused on your art, but your art is not a separate entity from you. Art and artist are one, at least in my opinion. You are your art and your art is you, and the value of the both are interwoven together. And in her book, Meg Jay says that identity capital is the currency that we use to metaphorically purchase relationships, jobs, and connections. It has value in our minds. It's why some of the most profound public speakers and inspirational, motivational people in life have very unique stories and experiences and traits about them that make them stand out from the rest. Makes them instantly recognizable, and it serves as a form of currency in the world for them that they can purchase your admiration or opportunities or value. Oh, why'd my dad just pull up? I love that he comes over every day. I do. I'm gonna miss it someday. 1 second. Remind me at the end of this video to tell you the story of how I got detained by the Mexican army at the airport. Identity capital essentially just means building a very unique identity that makes you perceived as being more valuable and interesting in the world. So as an artist, how does this correlate to valuable art? Well, look at the artists that are selling their work for incredibly high amounts of money in the world. There's one artist particularly that I follow, that I've followed for a while. I hope I say his name right. Jeff Weir, Oilworks. He has about 215,000 Instagram followers. His paintings are very easily identifiable as his work. He does a lot of like bears and like cowboys, and I think his work is stunning, and it also sells for a lot of money. He has wait lists for his prints. He only sells prints once a year and they sell out. He also has people sign up on a wait list if they ever want to own one of his huge originals. These are all his sold originals. But here's the thing, when you go to Jeff's page, he is on his page. He does voiceovers of his videos. He has kind of influxed his humor. And actually the very first video that got me to follow him was kind of a funny video where he had a funny voiceover. So he is not separate from his work. You get to see plenty of him. You know what he looks like. You know what he sounds like. And he's just a unique person. Next, I want to look at Talia Stanton, another one of my absolute favorite artists to follow. If you don't follow Talia, she has 700,000 followers on Instagram. Her work is absolutely beautiful, and she has done an amazingly incredible job not only at finding her style, because I've never seen another artist paint like her, but she as well, if you go to her page, she is all over her page with her art. Her voice is very recognizable. If you actually just played me an audio of her voice, I would know right away that that's her. I love her accent. She is the artist. When you purchase her paintings, you're purchasing a piece of Talia. And I've thought about before, like, gosh, I would love to own a Talia Stanton original. Why? Because it would be such an honor to have her original painting that her hands touched, that she glazed. It's almost like a form of admiring a celebrity, like fandom almost. So seeing it from the perspective of the admirer, the person that would love to one day own one of those paintings, I can recognize right away that it's not the painting alone, isolated. If I ran across a painting, a Western style bear painting on Etsy, and it wasn't Jeff's, I don't know if I'd be as inclined to own it because the entire value of why I would like to own a Jeff Wire original, I'm probably butchering these people's names, but I just read them in my head online. To own an original by my favorite artist is because it is a piece of my favorite artists. Anyway, so you get the point. Oh, UPS is here now. Gosh, everybody just wants to interrupt my videos. I wonder what I got. Obviously, you want to become a valuable artist. How do you do that? You're probably wondering, I want to do something today. I want to start taking action. What do I do? Well, a lot of people, I get a lot of artists that follow me, and I love clicking on their pages and looking at their profile. The UPS man is... Sometimes, even though I see them coming, they knock on the door and it still startles me. I hate when people knock on my door. I want you to stop and I want you to think about who's your favorite influencer? Or your favorite, if you hate influencers, who's your favorite person? Just person that you don't know, that you only know online. Why are you so invested in certain people that you don't know in real life? Is it because there's something about their story that you resonate or identify with? Is it because their style of talking and speech is something you identify with? Think about all the reasons that you get emotionally invested in a person you don't know. I would guess that a lot of those things are deeper than surface level. I know that my favorite people I follow online share the most unperfect sides of themselves. I'm not really invested in the influencers, the people online who have perfectly perfect lives. You know, you get attached to realness and authenticity. So as an artist, how can you give people a glimpse of who you are authentically? I think number one, if you're not already, you should be equally involved in all the photos on your Instagram, right? It should be your art and you. It should be you holding the art. I think you should not just post photos. You should post videos of let people see what you look like, what you talk like. I think you should share about yourself. If you don't have a bio on your website, sharing your story and why you create art. A lot of people will go to your site interested in possibly purchasing from you, and they want to learn more about you, but there's no bio. Number 4 goes along with people knowing about you. I don't know. I like to share a little like favorite art quote. Every time I post a new painting, I'll kind of share what the meaning of the painting is for me. Like, this painting's meaningful for me because it's the feeling of holding your breath underwater, like the same feeling as when you are crying and you're like holding your breath and it's like you hear the ringing in your ears. I don't know. Give people a story. Give people something that connects the painting to the person behind it. Let your personality shine through. We're artists. We're not lawyers. We don't have to be professional. I mean, I understand a little bit of professionality, especially if you're trying to get in galleries and all that stuff, but there are no rules to being an artist. If you're funny, be funny. If you're shy, be shy. If you're outgoing and loud and hyper, be that. Like, you will find the audience for you when you fully embrace your personality and enmesh that kind of in your art. Like Jeff, the guy who paints the bears, like I said, the video that got me to follow him, he was so funny. It was some joke about painting with his own urine, I think, which is normally not something that's not like normally my type of humor, but I forget what it was even, but it's always stuck with me. It's been years and I still remember it because it was so funny. I think another thing that can help you is posting on different platforms in different ways, because the content that I post here on YouTube is much more personable and people get to know me better and hear me go on these long tangents and streams of consciousness. It's very much different than just seeing a picture of me holding a painting. You know what I mean? I'm gonna sneeze. Try to keep it small and dainty for you guys. So I guess my takeaway here is to shift your perspective from I need to sell my art to I need to sell myself. I've been selling my art for years and years and years. And in the last year, the big change that happened is I went very, very viral for not just my paintings, but I shared a part of myself, a part of my story that I had not embraced for many years, which was being a teen mom. And the art teacher that kind of inspired me to paint, because his classroom was my refuge as a teen mom. And then it turns out that that is what people found the most compelling about me, about my story overall. Anyway, and for you, it might mean sharing the childhood trauma, I don't know, that you have that is the reason that you create. Do people know the reason you paint? Because us artists, we have a reason, right? I know that each one of you watching this video, if you pause and think back to being a kid, why did you paint? Was it your escape because you didn't have a lot of friends? Was it your escape or your only quiet space where you could shut out noise from a noisy house full of conflict, and art was your little dreamscape you could get away from? Share that with your audience. Let them know why you're an artist, because I think that makes them want to support your art more than anything else. I hope this made any kind of sense at all. So I think having a lot of followers could make your art perceived as more valuable, but I think the quality of followers matters way more than the quantity, because I've seen this happen with so many influencers who had millions of followers and they launched, say, a clothing line, and it failed because they thought they would sell out because of the fact they had all these followers, but these followers really did not have a deep connection to them, and so they failed essentially. Whereas there have been much smaller creators with just thousands who have done the same thing, launched a clothing line. They have built such a community of people who really care about them and feel connected to them that they'd sell out. And that's really, I think, what creating yourself a valuable identity as an artist comes down to, is connection, the connection that people feel with you and with your art. And you can't separate the two. You want people to be connected to your art, you have to let them be connected to you. Okay, you guys wanna hear this stupid story? Ugh. My dad just dropped this off. It is a bullet shell casing. I don't own a single gun. I didn't grow up with guns. My grandpa was a Vietnam veteran, and he had a funeral last summer at a military service where they shot off rifles, and all these shell casings fell on the ground, and they collected like 16 of them, and they handed one out to each of his grandkids as a little memento from the funeral, okay? And I thought nothing of it. I zipped it in the inner pocket of my purse, and I never thought about it again. Next thing you know, I get married in Mexico last December in Cancun. I get into Mexico just fine, because I have nothing on me, right? As I'm coming back through, me and my husband are coming back through TSA, this alarm goes off and they're like, ma'am, there's bullets in your bag. And I was like, there's not bullets in my bag, I promise you. But the challenge is they only spoke Spanish. I majored in Spanish in college, which was my only redeeming factor in that scenario. I was explaining in Spanish, I don't have bullets. It has to be a mistake. It has to be. There would never, ever, ever be a bullet in my bag because I don't even own a gun. I'm just a girl, okay? And I just got married. They separated me from my husband and they said, you not leave until the Mexican army arrives. The Mexican army arrives. They, like 4 soldiers and a TSA agent, take me in a questioning room by myself. They bring my bag in there. They dump out my bag, and literally as this fell out, I remember. And in that moment, I felt guilty even though I wasn't. And I was in Spanish. I was like, I am so sorry. Of course, here's how it probably came out. Grandpa dead? Grandpa dead, bullet gift. Funeral bullet gift. Honestly. They filmed me. They were filming me that whole entire time. My husband couldn't come in with me. Finally, they let me go. And I was so terrified. I was so scared. Anyway, they took it. They confiscated it. My dad just brought me an extra. So I'm gonna go lock this away somewhere very safe, not in my purse. Have a great day, guys. Comment any feedback or questions, or if you have any tips for artists trying to increase their pricing, drop them in the comments below. Have a great day, guys.